But you know what I think is so cute about this video before we get started?
Cute?
We both got on our jerseys. It reminds me, if you, you and I, we didn't get a chance to go in the high school dances together. I mean, we were,
Sadie Hawkins.
yes.
You're my day.
Yeah, Jersey Day or whatever at Sadie Hawkins.
I got stood up for Sadie Hawkins.
You got stood up?
Mm-hmm.
What fool stood you up?
A fool.
Well, hey, I got you now, so that works for me.
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome back to Encouragement TV. We are the Chavises, and we are so very excited to have you here with us. We want to ask you to please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And, this season we'll be covering all manner of topics that, appeal to you, that interest you. So please make sure you leave us a comment, right? Let us know what topics maybe you would like for us to cover, right? We'll get some material together. We'll do some research, and we'll definitely get back to you on that. All right? Now, today we've got another topic for you. This is season 1, episode 2, right? And we've got another episode or another topic. There it is, another topic that we want to talk to you about. But you know what I think is so cute about this video before we get started?
Cute?
We both got on our jerseys. It reminds me, if you, you and I, we didn't get a chance to go in the high school dances together. I mean, we were...
Sadie Hawkins.
Yes.
You're my day.
Yeah. Jersey Day or whatever at Sadie Hawkins.
I got stood up for Sadie Hawkins.
You got stood up?
Mm-hmm.
What fool stood you up?
A fool.
Well, hey, I got you now, so that works for me.
Yeah.
Well, friends, listen, we've got a topic for today. Babe, why don't you go ahead and take us into today's topic?
Our topic today is about dating versus marriage.
Dating versus married. Now, there's so many different ways that you could bridge this topic, so many different things that you could say about dating versus marriage. Some people, like myself, believe that once you get married, that you should never stop dating, that you should always be dating. However, there are some significant changes and things that happen when you get married versus while you were dating.
Mm-hmm.
There's some major changes that take place. And if you are not, if you don't take the time to recognize it, your whole marriage could be messed up. Not per se messed up.
Just have some foundational issues.
Thank you, babe. Have some foundational issues because you're still stuck trying to be in a dating situation when you're not that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things is once you get married, you have to remember that this is not that. All right? I mean, you can have some of this in that, but they're not the same. All right? So you still take her out and enjoy her and, or y'all still go out together, enjoy one another and spend time together like you did when you're dating. Go on dates, That doesn't change. That doesn't stop. Still buy her flowers if you did that beforehand, unless she doesn't like flowers, in which case you get her something she likes, But there's a definite difference between the two.
When you're dating, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
I saw this. When you're dating, you're still technically single because you have not stood before the Lord and made a vow before the Lord that you would be with this person and that you would be there through thick and thin and all of those things. So technically, when you're dating, you're still single. Right.
Which is why, again, I would entertain other conversations. Not on a level, if I was with one person, I was with that one person, but that didn't mean I didn't talk to other people on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't say I took them out all the time or did it, but we would still communicate, whatever. So that's one of those differences versus dating and married. Married life, that's a no. That's a absolutely not. I definitely don't entertain outside conversations or whatever in my marriage. somebody can see me and say, "Oh, you know, are a handsome young guy or a handsome guy, whatever." I'm like, "Really? My wife thinks so too. Thank you so much, you know, for the compliment. I appreciate that." You know, I always point it back to my wife. So that's one of those things about dating versus married life. But what are some of the things, and we'll touch on so many, but what are some of the things?
So definitely, dating and marriage, like my husband has said, this is definitely not that.
Right.
And that is definitely not this, but this may have some of that. Or vice versa. So dating can be similar to marriage, but there are some spiritual benefits to being married, and I think that's one thing that we want to chime in on and just kind of harp on that most people don't know, which is in 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, where Paul is talking about how the believing wife can sanctify the unbelieving husband, and the believing husband can sanctify the unbelieving wife.
Right.
And that's power in that. In that is saying that my prayers have spiritual authority or power to help my husband, and my husband's prayers has spiritual authority or power to help me as well. That means that if I'm sick or if I'm going through something, he has the power. God has given him the spiritual authority to pull me out of some things, to pray me out of some things, and he has done that so many times, and vice versa. When we are feeling like we are not at our best,
Right.
our spouse can step in and tell the devil no, or step in and pray and plead the blood on our behalf, and that is amazing in itself. And I think
absolutely.
That's something that spouses don't know, that they have spiritual authority to stand in Jesus' name, because you are one.
Absolutely.
You are one. You become one. So I can stand as him and decree and declare things on his behalf, and he can do the same thing for me. So in dating, you don't have those same privileges.
Not at all.
But in marriage, you do, and that is an amazing thing. That is a powerful thing that you should take advantage of if you are married, and if you're looking to be married, you need to have that tool right there in your pocket, in your belt. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing with dating versus marriage is, we know that some people move in together when you're dating. We know that. Some people call it shacking up. And honestly, there's not any scripture that says that you shouldn't shack up, or that you can't live with someone and before getting married. But the issue becomes is if you have self-control. If you're able to control your body, control whatever lust you may or may not be dealing with.
Absolutely.
And Paul talks about that in 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter as well.
Yes, he does.
About being unmarried and married. And he says it's better to stay unmarried. But if you're unmarried and you have a lust issue, then he was like, you might want to look into
that marriage.
You might want to look into getting married, but you want to make sure that you just don't marry anybody.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Don't just marry somebody because, I gotta have it, and I just don't want to be in sin, and I'm just gonna marry somebody that I'm not in love with. We don't have a spiritual connection. We don't have the same beliefs. We're unequally yoked.
But the sex is good.
But the sex is good. So what else is there that's going to be in the marriage as a foundation besides sex?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you're going to have a communication issue. The belief issue is going to be off. And it's going to be a rocky ride, a bumpy ride. And that's not necessarily what God has for you. And that's not something that you want to get yourself into. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, if you're dating and you lay out everything that a husband or a wife should have in a marriage. For instance, you're dating, but you're giving this person regular sex. You're giving them the husband-wife treatment.
Right.
They have the full course meal. They have the washing of the dishes, the cleaning of the clothes, the babies, the whatever. what will be different? This person is looking at like, what will be different if I decide to marry you? Because I'm getting everything
right
before that.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you don't want to put all your cards out on the table. You want to preview, you want to show what you are bringing to the table. Like, I made sure he knew I knew how to cook.
Yeah.
I did. But also he knew that I knew how to pray, that I believed in him, and I believed in his dreams, and I saw something in him that wasn't just potential, but it was power, and it was powerful, and he needed to pull that out of him. But also, we both knew that there was a connection there, and God wanted to do something with us. We weren't just dating just for the sake of, oh, I think he's fine. I did think he was fine though. But and I still do. But I knew that it was something more to him, and God wanted to do something with us. I knew he was my husband. You want to make sure you know that in your dating phase. Don't just marry somebody just because you feel like you're getting too old, or you ready to have babies, or it ain't nobody else out there. I don't think I'm going to find somebody else. And this person doesn't have the qualities that you've prayed and asked God for.
Right.
And you're settling, and you're settling. That's not what you want to do.
Not at all.
That's not where it's at. But if you've prayed, and this person is meeting the guidelines and the requirements that you've had in your prayers, then that's something you will want to move forward with and begin to work in unison together.
Absolutely.
So, babe, from my understanding, how do you feel about a person putting the cart before the horse, or,
Well, here's my thoughts on that. And, there's three things that I see that happen when you commit your whole self to a person. You move in with them, you give them sex, you give them the husband and or wife treatment prior to them making a full commitment via marriage to you. The first thing that I see that happens is that you show, as the man or as the woman, that you do not know your value as a husband or as a wife. When you don't know that value, you'll settle for anything. You'll just go along with it because you don't know that you have value as a husband or as a wife. And you need to know for yourself, what do you bring to the table? What value is there to having you in their life as a husband or as a wife? What value is there? And that's something that you need to evaluate and understand prior to jumping into this thing. Because once you get married, or once you get into the situation and you're steady wondering, well, why won't they marry me? Why won't they? It's because you have already given them everything, and they realize, oh, well, she doesn't have any extra value as a wife. Then they turn around and go marry somebody else, and you be all mad, hurt, and upset. The second thing that I recognize in that is that it shows that you don't know, and this is similar to the first, but it's not the same, that you don't know your purpose.
Yeah.
One thing that both my wife and I understood and knew before we got married was our purpose in dating and being married. I understood before we got married that I wanted to be a great husband and an excellent father. I knew that's what I wanted, and I did not stop or settle until I got to that place. My wife knew that she wanted a husband who didn't have kids so that she could be the one to provide him kids. That she didn't want somebody who had been all the way around the block and around the world as well. She knew all of these things as to what she wanted and didn't want, and she did not settle because she had purpose. And she understood that purpose, and she allowed that purpose to lead her and guide her until she found, or until she was found. As the woman, it's so important that you allow yourself to be found and that you're not going out seeking. But she allowed herself to be found by the man that God had for her. The third thing and the last thing that I see when someone decides to give all of themselves away. All right, lose themselves in this man or this woman before there's a commitment for marriage, is that you surrender all of your spiritual leadership and guidance to this person. And again, as my wife has already pointed out, that's something that should only be reserved for your husband or your wife. You know, the husband ought to be the head of the household. He ought to be able to lead and guide his home. And when you surrender all of yourself over to this person, you now say, listen, I want you to be my covering, but they don't have that authority,
right,
because they're not technically your husband. They're not your wife. And you've surrendered all of this over to them. And it's like, for what?
Right.
You know? So those things begin to happen. And then you touched on a couple of other things. I think that it's so very important that we understand that when you're dating versus when you're married, there's some things that are just benefits to being married. I know that by being married versus when I'm dating, first off, I get to come home to somebody. I get to lay up with you at night and not have to worry about, man, I got to go home by this time, or the condemnation or any of those things. Like, there's so many different benefits to being married. There's a peace of mind that comes with being married, a weight that's lifted versus being married and dating. And with dating, it was like, man, I couldn't get comfortable nowhere. I remember sleeping at, a young lady or two's house and just being uncomfortable, not being able to really sleep because it wasn't my bed, and I wasn't technically really spiritually supposed to be with this person, but I was just with them, just doing my thing, just being young.
And that may be why some of you can't sleep. So a lot of people have insomnia or can't sleep, and it's because, and I've experienced that too, you're laying in somebody's bed that isn't your husband or isn't your wife, and y'all have been together, y'all have been dating, y'all do life together, but that's not where God wants you to be. You're settling, and until that person, like my husband says, makes that commitment, doesn't just propose, but settles on a date, commits to a date, follows through,
Absolutely.
And knows that you are the person for them and can back it up with reasons why, then you're going to be uncomfortable. And
Absolutely.
There's going to be a place where you're not going to have a peace of mind and you can't rest.
Yeah.
You can't rest. And what you said about no condemnation, oh my goodness, the peace of being able to be intimate with your husband versus dating. Hey, TT. With your husband versus dating is there's no condemnation. If you, fornicate or however you want to call it, you don't feel afterwards like, dang, I shouldn't have did that.
Right. And when you're married, it's not even called fornication anymore.
Right.
It's called sex. Intimacy, right?
Right.
So you don't have to use those dirty words like fornication.
Fornicate. You're fornicating. But it's a beauty to it. It's and actually, and making love in marriage is like way better than anything you've ever experienced while dating.
Absolutely.
Like the person that you thought got you there and was like, whoa, they were my favorite. In marriage, if you give your spouse a chance, if you guys communicate, as we talked about in episode 1, if you are patient and you walk with each other and you get to know each other, man, you're going to experience some amazing, amazing times together. But that's what separates dating from marriage.
Yeah.
And it's all about walking in God's principles.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage you, when you get married, you still have to date your wife, right? Or your husband. Y'all still need to go on dates, have date nights,
Absolutely.
and do all those lovely things, write little love notes and all that leave them on the mirror and stuff like that. That's very important. Even still, when you decide to get married, do all those things that help enhance the relationship and the romance. That's called foreplay when you're doing that throughout the day. That's just the foreplay that gets you all excited and ready for, you know.
And you know what the issue is? You have people that are spiritually and emotionally and sexually exhausted because they are depositing every person they get with. They are depositing themselves into this person. They are working hard to get this person to marry them. They are working hard to get this person to love them. And as time goes, more and more heartbreak happens. There's more trauma. There's more destruction. There's more destruction that happens. I see people spiritually depositing. You're putting so much into this relationship that was never going anywhere from day one. This person has shown you who they are over and over and over, that they're going to cheat, they're going to lie, they're going to text you at midnight and say, hey, because it's booty call hours and they just want some. And they know that no matter how they treat you, you're going to run to them. And you're steady giving yourself to them, to when it gets to the time for you to meet your husband or your wife, you are exhausted.
Yeah.
You are tired. You don't even want to deal with. I'm sick of it. I just rather be single. I'm sick of it. I just rather be with a female. I'm sick of it. I just rather be with a dude. Whatever it may be, because we have spent so much time giving ourselves to people and dating, giving them the married treatment, giving them, because we all have that dream where we want to be with that, you want to have that happily ever after relationship, and we're thinking in our minds, oh, if I treat them this way, and this way, then they're going to like me, and they're going to love me, and then we're going to be happily ever after. And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You always have to have God in the center of it. You have to follow his principles. If you don't know his principles, learn his principles. What are God's principles? First, come to me. Give yourself to me. He says, follow me and I will give you rest. And once you get your rest and peace in him, then you're able to discern and see, okay, I like what this person has on the exterior, but I don't think on the interior they have that's what's for me. God, what do you think about that? You say no? Okay, I'm okay with the no. But some of us, we ask God, what do you think of it? And he says no. And we're like, but I really like them.
Right.
But it's really, the sex really good though. Like, really though, like, I know he bad for me, but he really make me feel good. And God's like, no, I got somebody else over here that's gonna make you feel even better. But you're like, no, I really want to stay with them because they. And then this person ends up breaking your heart. They end up breaking your soul, your spirit, and just causing you to go through so much stuff that you have to try and heal from. And Johnny, the one that's for you, is having to wait for you to go through your healing process. And some of us never go through it. We just keep jumping from person to person, or we go back to that person that hurt us, and we just have to continue to remember God's principles, which is come to him first. He says, follow me and I'll give you rest. And you seek him first. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And all these things will be added unto you. We're not just talking about prosperity stuff. We're not just talking about material things. We're talking about the desires of your heart, the deep things that you desire in your heart. God knows those things and he will give it to you, but you got to seek him first. You got to seek his face and not his hand.
Yeah.
Because it's just like when you see a homeless person on the street, if you don't know them and they're saying, hey, can I borrow $1? Can I borrow $2 to get something to eat? You're like, no, I ain't giving you nothing, because you're looking for what's in my hand. You're not trying to get to know me as a person or interact with me or help me do something for what's in my hand. Yeah. And that's the same thing with God. So many times we want him to give, give, give. Give me the man of my dreams. Give me the woman of my dreams. I want him to have, a big superhero chest, and I want him to have abs and, big calves and all this stuff. And God's like, okay, but you haven't seen my face yet.
Right.
I have those things for you. I can make it happen. But if you haven't seen my face, I can't give you what's in my hand.
Right. And the scripture that relates to or talks about what Kristin is talking about here is, oftentimes we recognize very plainly. He says, "I'll give you the desires of your heart." We harp on that. Mm-hmm. Lord, you promise you give me the desires of my heart, but you forget that first part, which he said, "If you delight yourself in me, then I will give you the desires of your heart." Have you delighted yourself in him? Have you talked to him? Have you spent time with him?
Yeah.
Have you, no, you haven't. Mm-hmm. And you've just been searching for his hand, for a hand out, and you haven't gotten time or taken time to get to know him, to spend some time to be intimate with him. And so it's so very important, and that's the beauty, even when you go back to 1 Corinthians, that's the beauty of dating life versus married life. Mm-hmm. Dating life, you have all the time in the world to spend with the Lord, right? Paul said that the single person, their life is about the things of God. But the married person, it's all about,
the things of this world.
The things of this world and how they can please their spouse. Mm-hmm. So the single person, it's about God and how can I please him. The married person, their focus has to shift, has to change. It's still about God. God is still, but it's also, okay, God, I need to please them. And when you take care of your wife, when you honor your wife, when you make sure you're pleasing your wife and meeting the needs and all that for your wife and vice versa for the husband, it honors God. It pleases God. That is his desire.
Still worship.
Yeah. And so therefore it still is good, right, for you to do that. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't feel bad all the time because, all right, when I was single, I just worshipped all day long.
That was me.
When we got married, it's like, I don't even.
Mm-hmm. And it was conflicting too. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy mad at me. Like, I'm not spending enough time with him. And, eventually I had to come to terms with God understood, me honoring my husband and us learning to pray together and worship together is what he desired. But he understood. He understands, like, you guys are married now. Tend to your husband.
Yeah.
Still seek me, still pray, still try to maintain a relationship with me. But I know you can't spend as much time focused on me like you did when you were single.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you look at dating versus married life, there are definitely some changes that begin to happen. Mm-hmm. Your focus shifts, and your priorities shift. It's all a part of being married versus dating. Mm-hmm. But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you still have the same mindset when you get married as you did when you were single, there's a problem there. Absolutely a problem. Mm-hmm. And so what you want to do is make sure that, okay, I understand I am married now. There has to be some shift. I don't still have a single mindset. I don't still, I heard, what's his name? Mike Todd. He was saying we have a singleness problem. Mm-hmm. And the problem is some of us have gotten married, but we still trying to be single, live single. And that's why you end up cheating on them, because you still want to see, I wonder if I still got it. I wonder if they still find me attractive. No, all of that is done with. It's over now. Yeah. Another aspect, another thing is, when you get married, my wife and I have seen it happen so many times in our relationships, and we're okay with it. Single people, you can hang out with, when you're single, you can hang out with your single friends, this, that, and the other. But then when people get married, it's like you don't see them no more. You holding that against them. So don't hold that against them. That's the way it ought to be. That whole leave and cleave thing, we often think, that's just about, family. It's more than just family. Mm-hmm. That's friends too. Because when I was a child, I thought as a child. I spoke as a child. I acted as a child, but when I became a man, what is a man? He has responsibility. He has things he has to do. So he put away childish things.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with single versus dating. When I was single, I thought like I was single. I acted like I was single. I, did things as if I was single. But when I got married, I let go of all single stuff, and now it's no longer I, but it is we.
Mm-hmm.
We, us, right? So that's my thoughts. Man, what else you got?
Man, I think that's all we got.
All right. Well, friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Listen, I want to encourage you again. My name is Pastor James W. Chavis.
And I am Kristin Chavis.
And be sure to catch us every week, right? And the only way that you can be on top of these videos and know when they are being uploaded or when they've been uploaded, when they're available, is if you subscribe. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. All right, all of the likes help. We don't just ask you to like simply because we feed off of the likes.
Mm-hmm.
The likes help, and help to get the video circulated more, get it more in people. So continue to like it and continue to share it. And then also, I've got to put this plug in. Make sure you join me every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time. I host a show called I Am Encouraged Radio. You can find it or at the website www.shabakradio.com or by downloading the free KPPM app. All right.
We love you.
We love you. We thank God for you.
Yeah.
And we'll see you right back here next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.